Good morning, good afternoon or good evening whenever you're watching this. I'm Autumn Blossom and welcome back to the channel. So I kind of got latched onto the idea of making a journal, and I did say in the video, my previous video, I'll link it above somewhere, that I would upload footage of me making it if you wanted it. But I really did enjoy making the video and I've decided to make the video anyway. So here it is. It is very much the basic. It's very, very basic. I do know how to bind books. I learnt it for photography, but I don't have the tools to do that and I don't have the money. So this is like a very cheap ass version of it. So yeah, I basically will just sit here and talk through what I did and hopefully you will get to see some of the footage. So basically what I started with was, I thought maybe that I'd just make a document, kind of like what I did for the Golden Shadow series, how I just make a folder of information and kind of have that. But I decided that no, I wanted to make it pretty because coming to the end of writing the first book in the Golden Shadow series, I did start to kind of detest my journal. So I thought, you know what, let's just make it pretty. And that way, when I write about the book in the story, I can kind of reference what I've actually seen. So I started the Word document and researched into a couple of things that I knew I wanted to be in the book. So in the first book, I reference how in the journal, the dad left fighting information and how to deal with injuries and things like that, and then the mum wrote in there about places that they wanted to take their children before they passed. And then I also spoke about how there was parts in the book that were written in a different language. What I did was I took that and decided that I kind of wanted a almost Spiderwick Chronicles kind of style. And it also forced me to decide on what kind of language I wanted to use. So I did some research into languages and I realised that Elvish isn't a thing, but runes are. So I have taken the Nordic runes and used that to create a language, and then from that language I then turned it into ciphers, which I spoke about in the previous video as well. Hi, Editing Holly. I should state that I am not using runes as the language in the world. I decided to choose runes as a way for me to kind of visualize it. So yeah, in the story it's not like I'm like, oh, this is an ancient language like written in runes. I won't even say what language it is. I'm not even saying it's Elven, I'm just saying it's a dead language. So that could be Latin for all we know. But I just decided to go with runes because out of every language it's the more fantasy one and looks kind of cute in a book, because I was kind of going for like the Spiderwick Chronicles meets How to Train Your Dragon kind of book. So yeah, just thought I'd clarify that. Back to the video. Then I decided to go on to Pinterest, and I do have a Pinterest board. I didn't save every photo, which right now I'm kicking myself for, because every artist that I used deserves to be acknowledged for their work. But I decided that I would use people's artwork as almost as if they were drawn in the book themselves. I also went on to things like font.com to get fonts so that there was 2 different handwritings and things, so I made it very pretty. I am very happy with how the pages turned out. The reason that I haven't actually ring bound it or sent it off to be printed professionally is mostly because I still want to add to it, and yeah, I think it's a great way for me to just reference it, because I describe from what I know. I write very much what I know. For instance, like how I've had to go to mines and I went into the catacombs in Italy to get a feel for what it was like to be underground in something that was built for people to walk around in. I do definitely have to have like at least a little bit of experience in the field to kind of understand it. Obviously magic is the only exception, but by having this, I am definitely able to reference it and be exact. It's kind of like having a timeline. You know exactly where everything is, and by having this journal, I can literally say this is what it says and quote it. And also it gave me a chance to really research into some of the creatures that are within my world, that I knew were in my world but I haven't mentioned. I've done some more research into cat folk, lizard men, the fae folk, the trolls, ogres. I did loads of research into dragons and the different kinds of dragons, mermaids, my own creatures, the linkers. And also I put in different stories. So there was a part in here where I'd refer to griffins, and I know that I want to bring griffins in when I go to see the sun elves. So I wrote some information about, like, a story from one of the parents' points of views of griffins, so that they've got their history is also written in here, like a diary, so I can reference back later. And also it gives me the opportunity to explain to readers more than I gave myself a chance to before, because I did have a habit of saying, oh look, there's that, oh look, there's that, and never really going into detail about it. Ray already knew what they were, so I never explained it to the reader, whereas for instance Ray's probably never been involved with trolls, so having a detailed description about trolls and perhaps some personal information from the parents really does help. That way I can kind of, before Ray actually comes into contact with a troll, let's say, she has the small amount of knowledge that her parents have left her, and so does the reader. And I think that it will become a great tool when it comes to actually writing the second book and going through the first book to kind of thicken out the plot and the information that's out there. It's very cheap, what I did, and I'm very happy with it. I think it came out well. Obviously it could have been a bit nicer, it's done stuff like this, but to be fair, it's not going anywhere and I enjoyed the process. It was nice to delve myself into their world without having to think too hard about the story. It was a very big world building project. There is definitely more that I want to write in there, like I need to write little stories about Ray's history, because I wanted to put in some information, for instance like her mom writing about when Ray lost her first tooth or something like that. And I also want to put a section in there of like who to trust, who not to trust, and some hints to other bits and pieces that will become clear in the second book. It's still a work in progress, but I ran out of paper. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. Whether or not this video actually gives you anything, probably not. The one thing that I love, for instance, with the Harry Potter series is that the books from the Harry Potter series have been made. And I think that that's so cool, because it's bringing that world to life. And even though magic is not a, you know, no one's an airbender or anything along those lines, having these tiny little knickknacks and tiny little things that represent a world in a book makes that book even more real to people. And I think that's nice, considering books are made for escape. And perhaps one day, if I ever get published, I might be able to have the journal made and published, because that would be brilliant. But that is way in the future. Thanks for watching. I know this video is probably going to be very short and of not much value, but I wanted to share it with you and I enjoyed making it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below, and to hit subscribe and that bell to be notified every time I upload. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.